Neglect does not always look like hunger or bruises. Sometimes it looks like a child who stops crying, not because they feel safe, but because their nervous system learns that no one is coming. In early life, a stable caregiver is not a luxury. It is the foundation the brain uses to map safety, trust, and emotional regulation. When that foundation is missing, the child adapts. Later, what seems like personality, constant worry, hyper-alertness, difficulty trusting others, may actually be survival learning from the very beginning. When that alarm keeps firing, the body begins to treat stress as normal. Adrenaline and cortisol surge to help a child cope with uncertainty. But repeated surges train the brain to expect danger even in ordinary moments. A child's brain is like a city under construction, laying down roads based on what happens most often. If fear and isolation are the most frequent signals, the brain builds fast highways for vigilance and threat detection, while the calmer routes for focus, curiosity, and self-soothing stay underdeveloped. That is why some adults feel tense for no clear reason, struggle to concentrate, or overreact to small cues. Their system is not broken. It is patterned. Some children learn these patterns not inside a single home, but inside systems built to handle too many lives at once. In overcrowded care settings, attention becomes a scarce resource, and care turns into procedure. Adults rotate, rules replace relationships, and a child's needs are measured in minutes, if they are measured at all. The loudest pain is not always the noise of the room. It is the quiet truth that no one has time to notice one specific child. That was the world Evan entered. A crowded sleeping room, blank walls, and long stretches of waiting shaped his days more than play or conversation ever did. Toys were rare. Books were rarer. Most hours were not filled with discovery, but with stillness and rules. From a psychological standpoint, this is cognitive neglect, the quiet starvation of experience. A young brain is designed to grow through interaction, through language, exchanged back and forth, through pretend games, questions, and exploration. Each small moment of stimulation helps wire new connections and strengthens the circuits that support learning later on. When those moments are missing during the fastest years of development, language can lag, flexible thinking can shrink, and school becomes harder to enter. It is easy to call a child like Evan slow. The truth is simpler. His brain was not given enough material to build. And the body was neglected too. Meals were thin on nutrients. Sickness moved easily through shared spaces, and basic care often depended on whether an exhausted adult had time to notice. In places like this, discipline can slip into harshness, because control feels easier than connection. The physical cost shows up in stunted growth, frequent illness, and a body that never fully refuels. Psychologically, that matters because the brain follows the body's priorities. When energy is scarce and the environment feels unsafe, the nervous system invests in survival. It stays watchful. It braces. And learning, which requires a sense of safety, becomes a secondary task. But the deepest damage is often emotional neglect, because it rewires what love is supposed to mean. Evan would cry, and no one came, or someone came only to scold, pull him up, and force silence. Over time, a child stops sending signals that never get answered. He learns to shut down need itself, to make his emotions smaller so he will not be punished for having them. Some children find crude ways to self-soothe, rocking, staring, repeating motions, anything that creates a rhythm when comfort is absent. The adult version of this can look like two different lives. One person becomes anxious and clingy, terrified of abandonment. Another becomes distant and avoidant, convinced that dependence is dangerous. Both may struggle with insomnia, social anxiety, or depression. Neither response is irrational. It is the nervous system protecting itself in the only ways it learned. When children from such environments were later observed and studied, one lesson kept surfacing. Development is not fueled by food alone. Nutrition matters, but steady human contact matters too. A calm voice, eye contact, gentle touch, and consistent responses teach the brain what safety feels like, and that feeling becomes the platform for attention, language, and emotional control. Remove either ingredient, and the foundation starts to crack. If you recognize yourself in any of this, it can be tempting to turn it into a verdict. I am too sensitive. I am too cold. I am too much. But many traits we hate in ourselves were once intelligent solutions. Hyper-alertness may have kept you from being blindsided. Emotional numbness may have helped you stay quiet enough to avoid harm. Even mistrust can be the memory of promises that never held. None of that was the child's fault. And sometimes it was not fully the parent's fault either, because illness, poverty, overwhelm, and broken systems can steal attention long before anyone chooses to. The turning point is understanding. When you see the pattern, you stop calling yourself defective. You start seeing adaptation. You are not broken. You learned the wrong rules too early, and you carried them for too long.